guys? Your host, your boy, George Mackay, back in studio again today, pre-recorded, as we always do during COVID-19. And I got a good one. I got probably one of my teenage crushes. Probably, one of my favorite divas from back in the early 2000s. And now she is an actual superstar. Diva has been scratched from the label because women have made strides in this business. And we all know I'm a pro wrestling women fanatic. I love them. I support them. I preach them because they deserve it. Please welcome to the show, Maria Kanellis Bennett. How are you, my dear?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I mean, it's Friday. We're going to
Mhm.
talk wrestling. We're going to talk
Yes.
all things you. And I can't be more excited.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. So, one of the first questions I always ask, and I don't ask it too often, but I feel like you would have a great answer for this question. I call it the defining moment. It's that moment where we fell in love with the sport we're going to be talking about today, wrestling.
Defining moment. So it would have had to been when I went to a show in Peoria, Illinois, and we had terrible seats, just terrible. I came from a small town, blue collar parents. Like I, was like, my boyfriend at the time was like, hey, we should go to a wrestling show. I was watching wrestling with him at the time. I was like, sure, why not? Seats were bad. So we get there, and there was a problem with the arena.
Uh oh.
So our terrible seats got moved to the floor, and we were the back row on the floor near the ramp. And the defining moment of saying, hey, I want to do this was when Stone Cold Steve Austin's music hit. And I heard that crowd and I went, I still get chills. Like right now, goosebumps happening. Um, and just feeling that crowd and like beer got splattered on me and like the I mean, everyone was a star at that time. It was, I think, maybe 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. I don't want to give you an exact year because I'm not sure if it was uh, right after high school or I was still in high school. Um, and I was drinking, so that's a bad number to give to because then you underage drink, But anyways, so everyone was a star. Tajiri was on the show and Tori was on the show, and like it was just everyone that came out, you knew who they were, and you were just so excited to see them. So yeah, that was the defining moment.
That's a pretty damn cool moment. I mean, I've been to a lot of shows. Obviously, being a wrestling podcast host and stuff like that, and my kids and my family are very influenced by it. My wife and I, on our first date, we discovered that we were wrestling fans, and I told her literally 2 hours into our first date, I said, "I'm probably gonna end up marrying you." Just solely based off being a wrestling fan, and
Yeah.
her knowledge is incredible. And she's also a redhead. What can I say, Maria?
Oh,
I
well,
support your answer.
us redheads,
Yeah,
we got to stick together here.
100%. And when you meet a redhead who's a wrestling fan, it's a dangerous combination
Oh,
of
yeah, for sure.
intelligence and beauty.
I feel as if there's so many redheads that gravitate towards wrestling. I don't know why. Maybe because there are so many that have, been wrestlers or I'm not sure, but it seems like there's a lot of redheads.
It's because they're all fire, and the sport of wrestling is pure fire. So it's
That
that
is true.
electric feeling.
Very, very true.
So you Diva Search 2004, you
Yeah.
placed in the top 5. And I
Mhm.
remember those Diva searches. And I remember that they were a big thing. They were almost just as big as the Tough Enough programs, which were
Mhm.
run for a few years before they kind of got kiboshed as well. Looking
Mhm.
back at that now, do you feel that a competition like, I mean, mind you, the eras are different and women in the sport are taken way more seriously than they are now.
Mhm.
Do you feel like if something like that was done in this time period, it would have almost been canceled right away, right? Because the timeline is so different now.
Okay, so I still say that I'm a diva. Because diva used to be a word of, putting someone on a pedestal. You know, you called people like Whitney Houston a diva. Beyonce has the song "A Diva Is." It's diva was that word, that pedestal. So I always say I'm still a diva because I also don't want to take away from the champions of that time. There were some great champions.
There were.
Um, it's unfortunate that the management did whatever it did, but it doesn't take away from the talent that was there, and the talent that's came out of that era. So, like, you look at someone like Natalia, who she was in the Divas era, but she's still in WWE. Someone like Foxy, who she broke so many glass ceilings with what she was able to accomplish. So, yeah, there were management had a particular idea of what, they wanted their women to be doing, but that's no reflection on the talent. The talent was a totally separate thing. And I talked about this in a recent interview that there's certain people out there that want to paint the locker room as this catty, cutthroat locker room of the women. But at the end of the day, we fought for each other. The reason why Diva changed into this women's evolution revolution is the fact that we all had each other's backs. We all fought for more. There were people that we didn't, we might not have gotten along with, another female, but we were still fighting for time together. So I always felt like we were this team. So do I think something like that would the way that they did it? Not necessarily. But would I love to see a new diva search? Uh yes. There are so many fantastic talented women out there that I would love to see another search for women wrestlers and to give those opportunities, because at the end of the day the diva search was an opportunity. So yes, we started out as thousands of women all entered in this competition, but there were many that were able to continue building a career off of that first search. I mean, you think about Christy Hemme, who went from WWE to being in TNA, and just the expansive career she had over there. So you people want to put it on the divas. It wasn't the divas, it was the management.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and I think your answer was spot on. The management at the time was very naive in what they had in their back pocket, and
Mhm,
had they known what they had, we may be talking a whole different ball game. The
mhm.
revolution may have started way earlier when it should have. But you know what
Yeah.
they say? They say it always takes one spark to start a flame, and then you got a fire on your hands, and then you got a barn burner. And
The one I always like to use is the person through the wall first gets the bloodiest. And I think that's why so much has been put on us, is because we were the ones fighting. We were the ones that were in Vince's office and in talent relations and fighting. And as time went on, many of us got released because we were fighting so hard. So we're the bloodiest of them all. We're the ones that get certain people like to look at as the untalented ones. But as I have put that to certain stars of today that have said, "Oh, well, the divas weren't talented," is I said, "Well, you should be thankful that we were willing to speak up at that time, because it wasn't like it is today, where there is a little bit more space for women in this industry. Back then, there was no space. Back then, I remember talking to Stephanie McMahon about merchandise, a T-shirt, and she said women don't sell. And maybe they didn't back then, but at the same time, they could have taken a chance. And eventually they did, because enough people asked. I mean, you look at Mickey James, how talented is that woman? And she was during the Divas era.
mhm.
He was an indie wrestler that came to WWE with talent and with experience on her side. And she's one of the few reasons why some of us were able to get through matches, because we were learning on the job. It was live learning these moves, some of us. And so there were some incredibly talented women that came off the indies that became divas.
Absolutely. Mickey, you mentioned Mickey James. I also would say in that era, Michelle McCool, who
Mhm,
was one of the like baddest women on the planet. Maurice, not so much in the promo department because she was just learning English, but definitely could handle herself in the ring.
mhm.
Yourself, I
Beth
remember
Phoenix.
watching you grow like
Yeah.
crazy.
And I mean, you look at someone like Beth Phoenix or Jillian Hall, I
Right.
mean, or Gail Kim. She was
Yes.
in that era as well. I mean,
Canadian
and
girl.
she went
Shout
on.
out.
she, she was, I would say that the real spark of the evolution after the first drive through that wall and women really starting to stand up for themselves is her going over to Impact TNA at the time and having those matches with Kong. I remember being a diva in WWE going, I want to do that. How do we do that? And we
Right.
couldn't have the time for that. But they were getting it and we were jealous.
Absolutely. So one actual other diva, I guess you could say that you had a moment with, and I remember this moment very vividly. I remember when you got smacked by Trish Stratus and she knocked
Mhm.
out one of your teeth. I
It
remember,
wasn't a tooth, it was a filling. She knocked
sorry,
out a filling.
but I remember seeing something fly, and I was like, I remember looking over at my girlfriend who's now my wife at the time, and saying, "Hey, was that her tooth? I think that was her tooth." And then she's like,
It
"No,
was
that was
my
too small."
filling, but I was like, maybe I needed to get them redone anyways or something, I don't know. I think I grit my teeth or, but that woman had a smack on her. Woof.
Yeah, I was gonna say on a scale of 1 to 10, would you say that that was the hardest smack you've ever taken in the ring?
Let's see. Trish? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
That was the answer I was expecting, and that's the answer I knew, and that's because Canadian women, they hit harder. They hit harder than
Yes,
everybody else
yes,
because
I'm interested to see what Taya does.
oh man, Taya is a beast, and she's a beast for the right reasons.
Oh,
She's
she's
just
amazing.
woo.
She's had it's been a long time coming for her. I've been watching her and following her career for years and like there was a time when I was starting booking things for Crossfire before everything went bananas there that she was one of the girls on my list that I was really interested in because she was just incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? You were in a time period where, like you said, women weren't fighting for everything, and also women were just throwing in storylines more as eye candy or arm candy. And you were in a
Mhm.
lot of, I guess, on-screen romances with a fellow
Yeah.
Canadian, Santino Morella. That
Oh,
that whole
yes.
that whole like storyline you guys had was incredible.
Thank you.
The famous calm down kiss with John Cena that is still in actually some of the WWE promo packages because it was so legendary, and also the on-screen relationship with Dolph Ziggler before you kicked him to the curb. So
Mhm.
I would say I guess back in that time period, again, it was a kind of a blessing. Like, okay, you're gonna work with this guy this week, or you're gonna be in a storyline with this guy. That was, I guess, the best that the women could hope for at the time period, right?
So, I I look at wrestling a little bit differently in the sense that it's still a TV show.
Right.
So for me, it was awesome. It meant more screen time. I had I had the best time. I got to work with everybody,
Yeah.
and it was acting like. And these guys were my friends. Like I thought Santino was hilarious. And like Dolph and I, we were very close friends. And so for me, I was working with my friends and I got to watch John go from being good to being amazing. Like,
Yeah.
so I had so many promos with John. Like, John was one of the people I interviewed the most. And like, from the beginning he made me laugh, but then he grew as a performer and like I was in awe of the fact of how good he got, and I always respected him for that. And Santino's chops, like that was great working with I when I got to work with Flair or Carlito or you know I had one of the best jobs in the world because I got to work with these guys, but I got to learn. I listened to all the matches. I listened to put them putting it together. I listened to the psychology, and like it was just I had the best education in the world because of it.
Absolutely. So in that time period where you literally were around the mecca of sports entertainment, who would
Mhm.
you say was the one teacher that you learned from the most?
Mm.
Like if you were to ask anybody a question, like if you were to go backstage and you see Triple H and Flair working on a match, and you walked in and said, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And then Triple H would say, "We're doing this, or this is psychology behind this." Who would you say was the one teacher that anytime you had a question, they would give you that answer?
Okay, so you know, uh, I would say a couple for that time frame
Hmm.
when um as things were changing, because I was there, it was going from Attitude Era, then there was like a little transition phase, and then it was starting to be the indie era
Right.
where you were hearing all of these stories about how good Ring of Honor talent was. So during that time, around 2007, something like that, I was dating Punk, and like Punk knew it. And like his grasp on professional wrestling was amazing. And like a lot of my education comes from him, and it also comes from Paul Heyman. Because like Punk introduced me to Japanese wrestling. I knew nothing about it until I dated him. And Paul just storyline wise and just
Yeah.
bringing out the most in any human being was incredible. Of course, like, I I could name a number of other people that taught me in the sense of, with wrestling. When it came to matches, Mickey was my go-to person. Like she was always available to anybody that came in with a question about wrestling. And she trained me a bit when I was down in Ohio Valley Wrestling too. So like, and Beth as well. Beth always calmed me down, slowed me down. And then if I wanted to try any kind of move, it was Victoria. Like Victoria was the best when it came to selling. And as a heel, she was incredible to work with. So like I had a plethora of people to work with. But in terms of seeing where wrestling was going, it would be Heyman and Punk.
Yeah, those are two names that I would hope you mentioned, and you did, and so you nailed it, and I love it for that because that means we're gelling. That means we're developing a friendship here, Maria. I believe that this is exactly what I was hoping this conversation was going to be. So, you got released in February 2010, and that was
Yes.
okay because then you transitioned into ROH and you had some
Mhm.
dynamite moments there. You were the first lady of ROH, and we're definitely going to
Yep.
touch on a lot of ROH. But before we do that, I got one more WWE question, then we're going to wrap it up with
Okay.
that until we have to go back
That's
later on.
okay.
But WrestleManias, you were at so many
Uh-huh.
WrestleManias. You competed
Yep.
in the Miss WrestleMania tournament. What would
Yep.
you say out of all the WrestleManias, because you had a few moments yourself, what was
Mhm.
Maria's WrestleMania moment? The one you cherish, the one you look back on fondest?
From that time around,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, and I think it's now because of everything that happened, but um, being able to tag team with Ashley, um, I think about the power she had with the fans, and how much they just loved her. And so, yeah, I would say working with Ashley, walking down that ramp with her, that would be my WrestleMania moment.
Absolutely, she was a legend gone too soon, and I hope that they recognize her ability and her talent in a time period where she should be recognized. And I hope
Mhm.
one day, we see her in that Hall of Fame because that's rightfully deserved. But as we
Yeah.
know, it takes so long to get to the right
Yeah.
decisions that it's going to be a while.
Like with China?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, China only got in because of the DX technicality, right? And they think we're
Yeah.
going away, but we're not
Mhm.
going away. British
No.
Bulldog, I think he's way overdue. I actually sat down with his daughter and I said that. I said, I think your dad
Mhm.
should have been in the Hall of Fame years ago. Owen Hart, I know
Mhm.
the reasons why. We all know the reasons why, but there's still
Mhm.
some people that the Hall of Fame is not for, and I want to put this on wax, and I think you'll agree with me. The Hall of Fame is not for upper management. The Hall of Fame is not for the ivory tower. The Hall of Fame is for us, the fans. We want to put people in the Hall of Fame because we want to remember them. We want to hear the stories. We want to
Mhm.
cherish. That's what the
Mhm.
Hall of Fame is for.
I always think that the Hall of Fame is for the fans, but it's also for the children.
Yes.
It's for the kids. It's for, my babies or Mike's babies, or, like it's for the children or their family, like it's not, I mean, yeah, it's for the person themselves, but for the people that loved and whoever it was, X talent, um, it's important to them. And I think that, that's something that, next generations look at. They're like, oh, my mom or my dad was in the Hall of Fame, and it It's amazing because that's why they were away from me. That's why they had those long tours. That's why I didn't get a kiss goodnight every night. And like, that's what the Hall of Fame should be for. That's why they missed my birthday party or couldn't go to the family reunion. Um, so for me, that's what the Hall of Fame is for. It's for the people that love them, whether it be fans or family. I think it's important for them.
I think you're 100% right. I think everything you're saying is truthful, and thank you for that, because that's the honest and the realness that we podcasters hope in these conversations, because this isn't an interview, Maria. This is a
Mhm.
conversation. I'm getting to sit
Mhm.
down with a lady who I believe broke barriers. And by barriers, I mean this. So you were the first lady of ROH, multiple
Mhm.
angles with Mike. I love the angles with Mike, especially with Kevin Steen. All those
Oh,
matches with Kevin Steen were just phenomenal. And I'm a Kevin Owens guy. A lot of people say I look like him. Of course, he's a lot more agile and athletic than me, but and I can't grow the full beard. I can't. This is the best I can do. So
that's
I've come to
okay.
terms with it. I've come to terms with it, Maria. I've realized that it's
Okay.
not who I am, but I can still say I kind of semi a little bit look like him. But one barrier that you guys broke down was your small time in New Japan. Was
Mhm.
great because you were involved. You were one of the first female wrestlers back in the ring since 2002 when you did it in 2015. And when I
Mhm.
was researching you, I was like, damn, that's a barrier. 13 years there hadn't been a woman in New Japan till you did it
Mhm.
with Mike and Matt Tavern in that intergender match. So tell me about
Mhm.
that moment, Marina. Tell me about that groundbreaking, historic moment, because that's what it is. 13 years. No female
Mhm.
wrestler had ever been booked in a New Japan ring, and you do it. You knock it down. That's incredible.
Thank you. It was an honor to be over there. They are an incredibly respectful. Um, it's a respectful culture. They treated me incredibly well. To be able to do it for a company that I love so much, that treated me so well, just made it all the more sweet. Not too sweet, but just sweet. Uh, and to be working with Bullet Club. I mean, at that time, Bullet Club was huge. I mean, that was everything. That was what everybody talked about. To be in the Bullet Club was to be a made man. Now that there's no longer that many, there's not a lot of mafia out there. We'll just say that it was the mafia of wrestling, to be in the Bullet Club. So to be wrestling against the Bullet Club was amazing. And I was a nervous wreck. I will be the first one to admit that. I'm not shy about it because I knew what it meant. It was important to me. So I trained my butt off. I was as ready as I was going to be with this awkward, lanky body of mine that doesn't want to move in the right directions. But it wasn't about that. It was about the story. It
Right.
was about the Kingdom versus the Bullet Club. And so whatever I did in the match was for that story. And so that made it okay with me and to be out there wrestling. But it was great. And I've had so many people come up to me and say, thank you so much, especially, Japanese women. They love that I was a part of that. They saw themselves in me when I was out there. And that means a lot to me.
Absolutely. And that super kick you took from Gallows, you took it on the chin and you took it like a champ. And it looked, I gotta say, my dear, you sold the crap out of that. Cause I went back and rewatched that match today in
Uh-huh.
preparation. And I went back and I was watching it with my 12-year-old daughter. I call her the mini host. She does these little 5 question segments. So maybe we can get you back on one day to do one of those. But I did. She's like, Dad, did he really kick her? I'm like, I don't know, buddy. It looked like within an inch, and the cell was perfect. So kudos to you.
So
After literally,
everybody always touches, like, with that stuff, I don't, knock on wood, that all of a sudden I won't become like a scaredy cat, but I always try to take it because I don't, especially if I have one job. You have one job, do your job. Like, I will take the moves, I will make it look as the best I can. Um because I don't want to take away from anything. Like, those guys are working their ass off week after week after week. And then this girl comes in and she's going to do one match and it's going to be the most important match. And like, so for me, I always try and take it because it's important to me to make everybody else's things look good.
Well, you did. And like I said, 7 years later, still spot on. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Kudos to you. Now, I loved you in WWE, but I saw the evolution of Maria really happen in ROH. And then 2015, like I said, that New Japan was a special moment. The Kingdom versus the Bullet Club, huge moment in time. But also another cool thing happened in 2015. You won your first title. Family Wrestling Entertainment. You won the
I
championship.
did.
And how cool was that after literally we're talking 11 years in the business? You're finally holding up gold for the first time on your own. You're not holding up somebody else's gold. You're not valeting somebody else's gold. You're holding your own gold.
I have to say it was a really cool experience just because I didn't know if I was going to wrestle again, like as a singles wrestler. I get asked all the time to wrestle. I was asked all the time at that time to wrestle, and I never feel confident enough in myself to do it. So to be able to win a championship was really cool. Um, but it has never been about the titles for me. It's That's just not who I am. Um, I just I look at it like, was the story good? Did it make sense? Can I elevate somebody? Because other than that, like, what's the point? Like, a championship is only as good as its meaning, and whoever holds it has to give it more meaning, not less. And so that's always my biggest concern is, whether it be that championship or another, am I building it up?
No, I think you did. You held it. You held it for close to, I think it was when I did my research, about 39 days. So
Hmm.
39
Oh,
days.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And then in 2016, you also won another piece of gold when you had your
Hmm.
1 year run in Impact Wrestling. You were the Impact Knockouts commissioner, which was a great storyline. I loved that storyline. And you know what? I love you as a face, but I absolutely adore you as a heel. There's something about you as a heel that just makes me like appreciate you so much more for your ability to sell and your ability, because promos, I'm one of those guys who I love the walking, which is when all the bullshit is done, all the promos are done and you're in the ring and you're settling it. But if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And like I said, in ROH, I think it's where you finally learned to really talk the talk. Your skill on a mic is one of the best women in the business, and I'll put that on wax. And because it's my show, nobody else's opinion matters but me. So it's great. It's great. And anybody who doesn't believe it, go back and watch the research. This girl can cut a promo. But you had that title reign, 50 days, and then a fellow Canadian, which I love her, but I have to hate her at this moment. Gail Kim, she took it from you. She not only took the title, but she took away your commissionership. That's horrible.
Well, it was a good story
It
though.
was
Oof.
great. It was
And
so
that was
good.
a fun match to lose. Another match I was incredibly nervous about, which I shouldn't have been because I was in there with Gail. So she's amazing. So I just had to kind of be I could have been a mop. She could have had a great match with. But she's amazing. The storyline was amazing. I really did. The funny thing about it was I got, or funny or not funny, I got kicked, and I was pulling Gail's leg and I had this hand next to it, and I don't know what I was thinking. I pulled her leg with this hand. Of course, when you pull a leg, her foot came back, kicked me like at the front of my hand, which broke this bone. I didn't think it was broken. I went home. I pulled my luggage, everything. And then a few days later, my hand was purple and blue and all this. So I ended up holding the title for longer because I had this injury, um, which I think made the storyline better. So yay for injuries. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. Being a commissioner was awesome. I have to, with cutting promos, I have to give kudos to Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor literally just said, "Go ahead, do what you do," and I went, "Really? Are you sure?" And then I just did it. So, I don't think I would have gotten better at promos if it wasn't for the freedom. And Ring of Honor gave me that freedom, and that made all the difference in the world when I went to Impact. So then and in Impact, you were doing so many shows that you couldn't think about it. You couldn't like, you just had to go out there and cut something. It was like, all right, well, this is, and of course, like, we had David Lagana, who was is an incredible writer. And then we had Billy Corgan that was there helping out with creative. So like you had the, those talented people that were behind you supporting you to say, okay, this is where it's going, and then go do a promo. So that's what I did. And Dixie is so giving when it comes to promos that like uh I was able to cut a promo back and forth with her, and like she's so giving that I was able to say the things I wanted to say, even though she was running the company at the time. So that was really cool, and it also gave me a lot of confidence knowing that I could do that.
Absolutely. And I love it when I hear those stories of, ROH allowed the creative freedom or Impact allowed the creative freedom. That's what I
Mhm,
mean when the evolution happens, because when you're allowed to take control of your destiny. But then you decided to go back to WWE. In
mhm,
2017, you and Mike made the decision to return.
mhm,
And you guys had a great run, but also 2017 was pretty cool because you became pregnant with your daughter, Frederica,
mhm.
which was
Yeah.
awesome. You returned in 2018 while you were still pregnant at the 25th anniversary show, where you were honored as the women's legends. You were part
Mhm.
of that segment.
Yeah.
So, how was it coming back for that segment? Now we're full circle. So you've come home. You had to step away from the camera because you were expecting Frederica, who, by the way, is adorable. And thank God
Thank
she looks
you.
like you. I'm a big fan of Mike's, but she looks like mom, and that's perfect. That's what we need in the world. We need more adorable little feisty girls. And like you said before we recorded, Karma, she's a
Mhm.
real biatch, and we know what's gonna happen.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm going to be terrified when she decides that she wants to start dating. But I'm just going to have to pray that it'll be all right.
We won't talk
Yeah,
about those
it was
moments.
great going back
Yeah.
for the Legends night. And um when I was out there with the other women, I just looked around and I just felt so honored and humbled by the experience. These are people I looked up to and grew up watching myself. So to be a part of it, I was like, yeah, damn, I'm old. But at the same time, I was like, wow, these women are incredible.
Absolutely. And then another cool thing happens 9 months later. You come back again and you're part of the first ever all women's pay-per-view evolution.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's something that you can say you had a hand in.
Yeah.
Why? Because like we talked about it, the first one through the wall draws the most blood. You drew the
Hmm.
most blood. You were in the office, you were screaming, you were kicking, you were telling people we need more. And to
Hmm.
see this full circle, talk to me
Yeah.
about that. And the next question is, when are we going to get Evolution 2? Because it's far past date.
So I was told that's never happening again. So by WWE management. Um, so that's cool.
That's that's the wrong decision. I'll put that on wax as
It
well.
is the wrong decision. But to be a part of it was bittersweet. I'll have to say that because so much of it was placed on the current crop, which is amazing.
Mhm.
Um, but I also looked around and I saw a lot of very talented women from the past, and some that weren't there because they had passed away. And so I wish that there was more truth to it, of how it came about, of how the evolution happened. It wasn't overnight. Triple H decided this is what we're going to do. No, it was um Sarah Del Rey on Ring of Honor shows wrestling dudes and having the best match of the night, or in Chikara having those incredible matches. um that's the evolution. Or Kong and Gail having those matches over there, or me and Michelle McCool and Melina and and any other woman at in during the Divas era going into Vince's office and asking for more. It was Medusa, and it was Scary Sherry, and it was every single female along the way created the evolution. It didn't happen overnight. And to say that, now we're going to put focus on the women and that is what's going to create the evolution, it's a little bit egotistical. No, no. This has been happening for many, many years. I mean, Molly Holly was an incredible worker. Victoria was an incredible worker. It did not start that year. It didn't even start 10 years before that.
Hmm.
It started many, many years before that when there were women just trying to get their names on the card. And I wish that story was told.
100% agree with you. Like I said, I'm a proud girl dad, and the women's wrestling evolution is something that I've been proud to share with both of my daughters.
Yeah.
And the only arguments we have in my house now is when my 12-year-old tells my 4-year-old that Sasha Banks can run circles around her favorite, which is Bailey, and she can't have the same favorite because that's the battles that we have in the house now. But I do tell them, I sit my 12-year-old down because, like I said, she's the future of podcasting in my eyes. And
Okay.
I tell her all the time, I say, listen, you're the mini host, but you gotta understand where you came from, right? You gotta
Uh,
understand the paths that were paved. And I go, and these are the women. And even when I was sitting down with you, like I said, we went back and researched it, and she thinks you're awesome. She's like,
oh,
Dad, she's
well,
super cool. I'm like,
thank
yeah, and I'm sticking
you.
with her, so I'm kind of cool too.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, the women of today are incredible. And they were
Absolutely.
and Sasha, when she was Mercedes, was incredible on the indies. And you know, they are amazing. Um, I just I also want to give kudos to some of the ones that I watched. I want to give kudos to my idols like Lita and like Ivory. And I want to give kudos back to them too.
Absolutely, and they should be recognized, and they should always be remembered and cherished for who they are. But
Yeah.
another barrier broken in 2019. You were in the first Women's Royal Rumble. That's pretty
Mhm.
freaking cool. That's another
Yeah.
barrier broken. That's a whole hour dedicated to the amazing, talented women in the business, and you lasted like 8 minutes right before
Mhm.
Alicia Fox just she ended your night.
Yeah, it was nice to be in there with Alicia though. She's amazing and hilarious. Yeah, it was great. I really did enjoy doing that spot with her. We got in a little bit of trouble because we took too long, but hey, I don't care. It was my time and I was gonna take it. And I didn't know how many more matches I still had in me. So you know what? I'm gonna do it anyways. It's been
Absolutely.
a long career. And so for me, like to be out there with her, which I think she's a legend. I think that the barriers she's broken have been amazing. And um yeah, I just it was great to be in there with Alicia.
Absolutely. And then this was kind of a storyline that I didn't like. I didn't like the way you guys were perceived after this together, both of you. 2019, you were in the mixed tag match with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. You
Hmm.
announced on air that you were pregnant with
Hmm.
your, at the time we didn't know, but it turned out to be your son Carver, who's
Hmm.
also adorable. And again, he looks like he's Mike's karma. That's the way I feel. I feel both of you got your equal karmas on your two
Yeah.
children.
I Carver's personality is just like whatever. Feed me and maybe cuddle with me sometimes. And you know what? I'm good. Change me, feed me, and give me a bottle every now and again. I'm cool. That's fine. He will sit for 2 hours and play. Like that kid doesn't care what's going on in the world. He's like, I got this spoon and a block. Cool. I'm gonna hit them together. Like
I'm gonna make all
he's
kinds of
he's
noise.
good. He like wants to know how everything works. He just stares. Yeah, great kids. And that night was I thought it was the beginning of like this really cool gritty storyline. Didn't go that way, but hey, that night was cool and
It
I loved
was.
working
It
with
was.
Becky because Becky is one of my personal idols. Even though she's younger than me, I don't care. She still could be my idol. I think the man gimmick, oof, so good. But yeah, that was a cool night. It really was.
It was a cool night, but then a few weeks later, there was the whole every time Mike lost something that you had to kind of shout out, oh, you're not going to be a great dad and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't the way I thought the storyline would go. But I did enjoy the you pinning Mike for the 24/7 championship, and then him at your doctor's appointment a week later pinning you. I did laugh a little bit at that. I thought that was pretty
Oh,
cool.
and you know what though? The first time we did it was hilarious. Like it was so good. And then as we started going, it was still funny,
Mhm.
but like, oh, the way that Mike had done it the first time, I just thought he was so funny. He's such a good comedic actor, and they just didn't want it. Didn't want to see it out of him. He was too good. Like, and I think they just, yeah, I don't know. That was a weird day. We nailed it on the first and the second try, and like they just kept having us do it. And I'm like, why? It's done. Like, what are you beating a dead horse here for what reason? Like, this is silly.
Mhm.
Um, uh, maybe maybe they saw something I didn't. I have no idea. But I thought Mike was so funny on the first couple takes, and they just took the funny right out of what he was doing and left all the funny on me. So, yeah.
And that's the hard part, right? When you go from all that creative freedom you guys had on the indies and at ROH
Uh-huh.
and at Impact, and you go back home where the creativity and the freedom is kind of stifled a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, stifled is that's nice.
Well, I'm trying to be polite. I don't know what you want me to say.
Just kidding. Um, yeah, I get it. They've got investors, and fine. Everybody's got that. I think that talent suffers the more you suffocate them, and or let the writers write, because the writers are great. Uh, and what happens, unfortunately, it's just like I said. We came in, we did that gynecologist scene. It was hilarious because what was written was funny. As the day went on, it got less and less funny.
Mm.
And like that's the hard part, is because as whoever management gets on the phone, I feel like it loses some sizzle because the writers are fantastic. I had many great writers. Hey, Heyman was my writer. Like, come on.
Absolutely, and it sucks that stuff like that gets dropped. The storyline was eventually dropped, and then, as we know,
Yeah.
you guys in 2020, at the start of 2020, you welcomed Carver to the world.
Mm,
Again, congratulations on your second. He
thank
is
you.
fantastic, and Frederica is again adorable as well. But then we know what happened, right? April 15th, 2020, you guys were part of the budget cuts, and it's hard when that stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, budget cuts is funny.
Well,
I
that's what's on
I like
next.
to say payment for other lawsuits going on at the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, whatever happened happened. It's interesting that the whole XFL thing happened. Right, it happened before. I think we found out about it after. Right as all these budget cuts were happening. Um, so whatever. It wasn't just me that lost my job. There was millions of people around the country that lost their job. So I'm not going to complain about that. What I am going to say is there was a lot of great talent that was lost that day that went off and is doing amazing things other places. So like, good for the fans. Like, got Doc and Carl doing their thing like they always do. You've got EC3 that he's alive and well in Ring of Honor, and so whatever happened happened. And now we're going to move forward with positivity and excitement, because that's what happens when you let great talent go. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my career was WWE releasing me in 2010 because I went out and figured out who I was. And I'm sure that even though it sucked, it hurt. I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. I had a little bit of money saved, thank God. That got us through for a while. But like, it was tough not knowing how, in a year from then or in 6 months or whatever it was, you're going to feed your kids. So like, that part is hard. And, um, uh, like I said, millions of people lost their jobs, and, um, it was a terrible time. It really was. There was so many rash decisions that were being made about not just my industry, but many industries, because people were afraid. And I'm hoping and praying that this year is going to be better and there's going to be more opportunities that come out of it for not just me, but for the millions of other women, especially that lost their jobs, because women lost their jobs at a higher rate than men did because so many of us had to be home with the babies. It's just it's numbers. It's not, it's not political. It's just numbers. And so I'm hoping that so many great things come out of it. Universal childcare would be fantastic. Um, but we'll see. It always takes those horrible things to happen for great things to come out of it. And I am sure that that's what's going to happen in this instance.
Absolutely. And where I was going with the April 15th was that something great did happen because
Mhm.
7 months later, 8 months later, sorry, you guys returned home. And
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
ROH. When I heard that
Yeah.
you two had re-signed with ROH, I literally, it actually was early in the morning. I was in the bathroom reading my phone on the toilet, like most people do, right early in the morning. And I read the article, and I literally screamed at the top of my lungs. I'm like, "Babe, Maria and Mike re-signed ROH," and I was so happy because I loved your time in ROH. That's like where I said where I really felt you two evolved as characters, as performers, as amazing talents that I always saw you as. And when you guys return back home, I think it was the best decision you made. And what you've done in the time there has been incredible. I love ROH. I preach and cheer ROH on. I've had the pleasure of having Shane Taylor on my show. I've sat down with Magnum. So many great ROH PCO when he was there, his time there. So many great ROH talents. Now I can add you to the list. And now that EC3 has re-signed, the wheels are turning in my head. I'm picturing a triple threat match with EC3, hopefully Shane Taylor as the new ROH World Champion, because I think his time is overdue, and EC3. And you know
Mhm.
what? I'm thinking Maria Kanellis needs to be the special guest referee. That's what I'm seeing in my head. I think if anybody at ROH is watching this interview, I think you should hire me. I will literally work for free
So
and
what you
just
need to
book amazing
do
stuff.
is you need to go to the Choose Your Honor Facebook page and you need to say this. That is what everybody needs to do. If you want something, if you want the fan experience, then that's what you do. You go to choose ROH and like you choose your honor. And we will give that to you. We filmed so many matches that were out of what the fans were really asking. The experience is all about the fans. And because we can't have that interaction um, at the shows, we're giving it a different way. And I'm really proud of it. I have another few big announcements coming up. I can't talk about them yet, but
Well, that means you got to come
because
back, Maria. You got to come back on Straight Talk Wrestling.
but yeah, I mean, I think that Ring of Honor is doing it so right. I think that they are really giving the fans what they want to see with the pure wrestling tournament, with the things that are coming up. Uh, I really think that the fans are going to be very excited about everything coming up in the near future. And I'm happy to be a part of it. I mean, I got the experience of being a commentator. Again, I had done it a few times before, but to be a commentator again, which I absolutely love doing, um, I think it's just such a cool way of just, talking about the match, but also watching the matches because I'm still a fan. So it's like sitting down with your buddies and chit chatting about what's going on in the ring. And I really like that.
Absolutely. I love the Choose Your Honor. I love everything about it. I love everything that Ring of Honor is doing. I love everything that they've done, and I love everything that they continue to do. And one of the best things they ever did was welcome you and Mike back home. So, from all of us ROH faithful, I can say welcome back because it was
Well,
rightfully
thank
deserved.
you. I'm very happy to be home.
Absolutely. And I hope you stay
It
home for a
felt a
very long
huge
time.
weight off my shoulders when I
Mhm.
went back to Ring of Honor. I have to say that my first day back, it just being in that environment again of trust and of sport is it really gave me a lot of confidence and motivation, um, to work towards the next chapter.
And freedom,
Mhm.
creative freedom.
Yes, very much so.
No stifling here. See, I could use the word stifle and it could still be
I
okay.
was just kidding. I was kidding because I'm I have a very, I have strong feelings.
And that's okay. Passion is passion, and I love it. And that's what Straight Talk Wrestling is about. We're straight up, we're honest, take us or leave us. And this was one hell of a conversation. Maria, before I say goodbye to, again, one of my favorite divas, you're my teenage years, my dear. You were an amazing human being, and you are an amazing human being. And now I can say that Maria Kanellis is my friend and a guest on my show, and that's huge for me. So anybody that's not stupid enough to not be following you, where can they find you on the wonderful world of social media? You and Mike.
So on Twitter, it's Maria L. Kanellis. On Instagram, it's Maria Kanellis. On Facebook, it's official Maria Kanellis. My website is officialmariakanellis.com. I do have a Patreon account. Everybody asks me, isn't it OnlyFans? No, it's not an OnlyFans. If you want to see me naked, just go to Playboy. Like, come on, it's out there. It's in the universe. Go find it. But Patreon does have really fun photo shoots. I did one that was very intimate for Valentine's, and I have a lot of really cool shoots coming up. We're actually doing like a 2-day photo shoot extravaganza coming up here. I'm training for it. I'm like so nervous about it. I just signed with a brand new talent agency out of Chicago, the Rock Agency. So if you want to book me for other things, not wrestling, you can also follow me up on the Rock Agency website. So lots of different places. And yeah, I mean, and of course on Ring of Honor. And as the weeks go on, you'll see more and more of me. I'm really, really excited about all the announcements that I'm going to be making at the pay-per-view. So yeah, that's just a little Easter egg here.
So that means you got to watch the pay-per-view, guys. Now, obviously, this episode is going to drop at the end of March. So it's perfect. But again, I'm a glutton for self-promotion. So I follow Maria on across all platforms. But if you want to follow your boy, it's at Straight Talk, at _ Straight Talk on Twitter, at Straight Talk Wrestling on Instagram and Facebook. I don't have a Patreon because I can't do the photo shoots you can do. I don't have the
Hey, you know what though? There's a lot of podcasters and stuff that are there too. And it's like everybody it kind of comes at me with different comments and stuff, but it's like there's a lot of artists on there. And I really like that as well. You know, all the different artists that are podcasters or they can paint or they're photographers or whatever. It's just a really cool site to be a part of.
well, then maybe I'll jump on, and then who knows, maybe one day you and me with my sexy radio voice, we will be commentating ROH together. That'll be a dream. That'll be a dream.
Oh,
I'm going to have to
I
go
always
on
talk about
Choose Your Honor. I'm going to have to.
always talk about it. I think that it's such a cool idea. Um, uh, it's different perspectives.
That's right. That's right. Look at that. Maria and I are gelling. We're friends now. This is awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for the time today.
No problem.
And like I said, it's going to drop the end of March, and I can't wait to share it. I'm going to tag you in everything. So
yeah,
feel free to share.
If you tag me, then what I do is I just retweet or, whatever it is. I just, because that just makes it so much easier. Or you could always email me with the information and then I just do it that way. Cause then I don't have to go and find it and then screw it up and then whatever. So if it's just sent to me, then I can just go, all right. And then I'm moving this over here while someone's screaming in this ear and someone's pooping on my leg. So like, it just makes my life so much easier. And that's Mike pooping on my leg.
Yeah,
awkwardly.
Oh, you're killing me. Well, I'll stop record quickly and then I'll get your email because I don't have it. I arranged this through Mark. But again, Thank you so much for being on the show. And that's it for me, guys. Your host, your boy. You know where to find me on socials. Maria and I are now friends. Super cool. And that's it for this week. Peace, love, and wrestling. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Peace, friends.
Peace.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another episode on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Also follow us on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _ Straight Talk. And for all our merchandise, you can search us on ProWrestlingTees.com.